Welcome back to the Professor Penn Radio Hour here on the John Fredericks Radio Network. Donald Trump is an entrepreneur of the highest order. You know, I'm an entrepreneur. Yes, your host, David Penn, John Fredericks, and I have started this e-commerce tire business, tireget.com, TIREGET.com. 11 different brands. They're all at the right price. We'll put them on nationally, wherever you are in this great nation, close to your house. It's a great deal. The price is right. You got to buy tires from somebody. When you buy them from Target.com, you are supporting the movement and the John Fredericks Radio Network. So I got this vision, right? I got this vision. I was going to do this. I was going to use the tires to promote the podcast, the Professor Penn podcast, the John Fredericks Radio Network, and we're going to make money. It's all going to be good. I had a vision. And that's what an entrepreneur does. That's what it's all about. Having a vision, having a future that you want to create. And that's what Donald Trump is doing with these tariffs, which is the one thing for me that stood out in last night's State of the Union addresses. President Trump said, oh, yes, April 2nd, I'm superstitious, not April 1st, I'm going to start the reciprocal tariffs. The tariffs, the tariffs, the tariffs. Let's listen to this clip from last night's speech.
Tariffs are about making America rich again and making America great again, and it's happening, and it will happen rather quickly. There'll be a little disturbance, but we're okay with that. It won't be much. No, you're not. Oh.
So that was the part that really was the, in my opinion, that was the feature of last night's speech. Might have a little disturbance. Well, I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of disturbers out there because when you have a vision as an entrepreneur, there's pushback. It's not just you playing out there by yourself. You've got detractors. You've got competitors. You got people that want to kick you right off your feet. Let's listen to the leader of, I think it's Ontario, Doug Ford, speaking about how he feels about President Trump's tariffs.
Also, starting today, all U.S.-based companies will be banned from taking part in government procurement. Every year, the province and its agencies spend about $30 billion on procurement, alongside our more than $200 billion plan to build infrastructure. U.S.-based businesses will now lose out on tens of billions of dollars in revenues. They only have President Trump to blame. I'm also urging all 444 municipalities to do the same, and I'm thrilled to see some are already stepping up. For example, Mayor Patrick Brown in the city of Brampton and many other cities. As part of this government-wide procurement ban, we're going one step further. We're ripping up Ontario's contract with Starlink. It's done, it's gone. We won't award contracts to people who enable and encourage economic attacks on our province and our country. Alongside federal tariffs and the measures my fellow premiers are bringing forward, this Team Canada's opening response.
Well, Donald Trump is gambling that tariffs, and when I say it's a gamble, he has a clear vision about this, clear, crystal clear. But there's pushback, like from this Doug Ford up in Canada. How are the benefits of the tariffs going to be accrued, and what costs are associated with said tariffs? Yes, there's a benefit, but what are the costs? Well, Doug Ford is lining out the costs. He's saying, hey, a lot of American companies are going to be denied tens of billions of dollars of revenues because of one man, Donald Trump. Well, that one man, Donald Trump, who stood up in that speech and said he believed he was saved to make America great again, which is a very bold statement. Bold. He's saying God saved him for a purpose. You know, I'm probably not super happy about him saying it out loud. He can believe it in his heart. When you say it out loud, and kind of using it for effect, but I think he actually feels that maybe he does have to say it. Maybe he does have to say it. It's one of those things where I get a little bit iffy because I just do. I just do. Because there could be a guy that cuts somebody's heart out that says God told him to do it. So we want to be careful in this area. But I, your host, I do believe that it was a miracle that Donald Trump was not killed in Butler, Pennsylvania. So I certainly understand where he's coming from. And he has this vision about how to save the country. And why does he have to save the country? You know, there's so many Republicans that don't recognize how close the country is to bankruptcy because it's always worked out. It's always worked out, and you can't really tell that the country is close to insolvency because you can still go down and buy things with your money at the store. You're still getting your Social Security checks in the mail if you're Social Security age. If you're using Medicare or Medicaid, it's still working. Things are still working. There's still money in the ATMs. The bank is open. The grocery store is open. We can't perceive how close we are to a complete economic meltdown, a calamity, because it's always worked. It's always worked. It's always worked. And we have the illusion that since it's always worked, it's always going to work. And that's just not true. No, that's just not true. We're $37 trillion in debt. We have a $1.2 trillion interest payment on that debt annually, which is more than about probably, well, it's just a little bit less than 20% of our annual expenditures. That 1.2 trillion is bigger than what we spend on defense, which is crazy. We're spending more money on interest than we are on protecting the country. That's crazy. And we're running a $600-700 billion trade deficit every year. And what does a trade deficit mean? It means money leaving the country. Of course, when the money that's leaving the country is the U.S. dollar, and the U.S. dollar is the world reserve currency, that attenuates the damage of that trade deficit. But those twin deficits, the fiscal deficit every year, where we spend more than we take in, and the trade deficit, it's $2.5 trillion to the negative every year. $2.5 trillion is going out the door that's not being replenished with income. That is not sustainable. And Donald Trump knows that. Anybody who's in business knows that. You can't borrow money to fund operations. You can't borrow money to fund operations, which we've been doing in this country for 20 years since 2000 and Bush. It doesn't work. Eventually, a day of reckoning comes. So what Donald Trump is doing is he's taking a whole bunch of reasons why. Our jobs need to come back. Our borders need to be closed because of fentanyl. But he doesn't say the quiet part out loud. We're going to go broke without a new system of taxation. Income tax is not getting it done. It's not getting it done. So he goes, what is the most effective thing I could do to accomplish my goal? Well, what is my goal? My goal, Donald Trump said, my goal is to destroy the post-World War II Democrat liberal order. What do you do to destroy it? You kick out the legs it stands on, and one of its legs is allegedly free trade. But there's no free trade. It's not free. Free trade's not free. There's been tremendous costs to our country in terms of free trade. When you kick out the free trade part of the post-World War II Democrat liberal order, and you kick out we're going to go any place to defend democracy, for example, not supporting the Ukraine, and you withdraw from the World Climate Accords and you leave the WHO, you pretty much have told the post-World War II Democrat liberal order it's over. So Donald Trump is making a bet. He's making a bet that on this tariff issue, he can undo the Democrat liberal order and fix the broken budget of the United States of America. It's a twofer. Oh, it's a threefer. It could bring the jobs back. Oh, it's a fourfer. It could control the borders so we're not having hundreds of thousands of people dying every year from fentanyl. This is David Penn, your host. We'll be back right after these commercial messages.